2011 Chevy Silverado 2500 with a 6.0 gas engine. Customer complaint is the engine light's on. So we're going to scan for codes. Key on, engine off. Pull up the current and history codes here. We got a P0446, which is the evap vent system performance, and we got a P219 alpha field trim cylinder balance bank 1. So what we're going to address first is the 446, the vent system performance. So on these Chevy GM evap systems, how they typically work is in the back there's a gas tank, obviously, and they vent vapors out into a charcoal canister, which goes through a vent solenoid. The vent solenoid is normally open. Then there's a line that runs up to the front of the vehicle under the hood, goes to the purge solenoid, which is normally closed. So when the vehicle's sitting, nothing on, the purge is closed, the vent's open, so your vapors can go and vent all through the charcoal canister and all that. When the engine's running, the computer, the PCM, takes control and closes the vent solenoid, opens the purge duty cycle. What that does is it, or duty cycle or pulse width modulated, it opens that purge and it lets engine vacuum pull. While the vent's closed, it pulls vacuum through it. And then it closes the purge. And then it sits there in the fuel tank pressure sensor, monitors the decay rate. You know, if it loses so much vacuum in a small amount of time, it'll give you like a 455 code, a 442, you know, a small, large, medium evap leak. We don't have that. We have a vent system code. So what we're going to look at now is our live data. So typically what I do is I go into, sorry about the glare, it's always glaring. Live data. And evap. My assistant over there is going to unscrew the gas cap, which is on the driver's side there. He's going to unscrew it, let it hang out. Why are we doing that? We got key on, engine off, the gas cap off. We should just have atmospheric pressure. So what I want to look at here is atmospheric pressure. Usually 1.5 volts is your atmospheric pressure. The vent cylinder is venting. Fuel tank pressure is 0.33 mmHg. Millimeters of mercury, so that's pretty much 0. So what it tells you in the service data is for the 446, and I take this with a grain of salt, but this DTC test evaporated system for restricted or blocked evap vent path that would cause excess vacuum, amounts of vacuum to be developed in the evap system. With the purge and vent solenoids open, if the evap system vacuum goes above a calibrated threshold, the test will fail. So then what we do is it tells you in here, let me see something here, it tells you for conditions for setting, but what I look at, so ignition on, fuel cap removed, the fuel tank pressure sensor should be between 1.3 and 1.7 volts. Key on, engine off, fuel cap removed. We're at 1.45, so that's good. I've seen where the fuel tank pressure sensors will read incorrect vacuum or incorrect pressure, and that's the brains of this operation, which will throw everything else off. So that part's good for this. So then what it tells you is to, with the engine running, install the fuel cap with the engine running, the evap vent solenoid valve open, use a scan tool to command the evap purge solenoid to 100%. The fuel tank vacuum should not increase to more than negative 15 millimeters of mercury or negative 8 inches of water. We're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to go back. Can you install the fuel cap? We're going to go back to active test. You got your purge and seal. I've talked about in other videos, your purge solenoid and your vent solenoid. We're going to go to purge solenoid. Again, that's the one up front. Then what we're going to do, it's at 0%. And if you look, what we're looking at here, there's a couple PIDs. Gotta find them here again. This one, fuel tank pressure, should not go below negative 15. while this guy is venting. So if you look down here, it even tells you evap fault history, excess vacuum, but it's venting. So it's going to be venting. So that vent is open in the back. We're going to open the purge to 100%, which it should not create much from back there. It should not create much vacuum because the vent's open. But if it goes below -15, there's our issue. Probably a restriction. So go back up to here. God, I can never find it right away. Right there. My assistant is going to reach over and start the vehicle. It should be in park. Just watch the VCI down there. He's going to start it. Gas cap's on. He's going to reach over and start it. Okay, it's running. So just to prove that we're venting here, we are venting. I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to increase this to 100% up there. This should not go below -15. We are at 100%. We're -16, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So, and we're venting the whole time. So that failed the test below -15. So obviously we were -15 or below -15. So it failed that test. The theory behind that is if that thing was venting in the back, it would never pull that much negative vacuum unless it was restricted. I don't know if there's an electrical circuit code. Well, we don't have an electrical circuit code, but we're going to go ahead and check that anyways. But I believe there's a restriction in the vent system, whether it's the vent itself or the charcoal canister. What it does tell you after that, if its fuel vacuum is greater than the specified range, go to restrictions in the circuit system testing. Again, I always take this with a grain of salt. Basically, it tells you to do the same thing, except unhook some components and see if it goes away. So it says if the fuel vacuum is greater than a specified value, isolate the restriction by disconnecting one component at a time while the evap purge solenoid valve is commanded to 100% and the valve is open. So if we did that, then we would know that, you know, if we disconnected before the or right after the charcoal canister, then we know it's the vent solenoid. If we disconnected it right before the, or sorry, let me start over. If we disconnected it before the vent solenoid and it got better, we know it's the vent solenoid plug. If we disconnected it before the charcoal canister and it got better, then we know it's the charcoal canister that's plugged. We're going to go ahead and put it up on the lift. We're going to do those checks along with checking the circuit integrity. The other code in this video, probably not going to address it, the fuel trim. That'll probably be a separate video. But I do want to get this one addressed for the evap P0446. All right, we're under the vehicle. So this is your vent solenoid. This is your charcoal canister. So this is naturally open. There's a line coming off here that goes down and it connects to right here. The other line goes up here, goes around, up, up in there. Vents, goes all the way up to where your gas cap is in vents. We're going to check for now. I'm in active test. So what I did is I went to the evap vent solenoid. I turn it on and off. You could do this with a test light too, but it's easier with the scan tool. I mean, a test light would light up, but we're just going to turn it on and off, and we'll be able to hear it click on and off. That means it's electronically working, which I expect it to do work. If it wasn't, it would have a separate code. That's on. That's off. That was the fire in the background popping. Let me do it again. On. Off. On. Off. So that solenoid's working. So what we're going to do now is we're going to unhook the line right here. That goes right to that. Do our same checks, pull and vacuum. If it gets better, then we know it's plugged. If it doesn't, we're going to go to the other line, to this, and continue on from there. All right, so we unhook this line, which is all that's doing is going to the vent solenoid right there. It goes to that black line, which goes up to there. So my assistant's going to go ahead and start the vehicle. Then we're going to go back to our test and do the same exact test. See what results we get, and that'll determine which way we're going. Gonna go to vent solenoid. And hang on one sec, Steve. We're gonna make sure we're not vent solenoid, sorry, purge solenoid. Come on. So we're at 0%. Make sure we're venting. Well, it doesn't matter for venting because we got it unhooked, sorry. So that's the whole point of this test. Go ahead and start it. Okay, it's running. You go to 100%. This should not go below -15. If it does, we got another restriction in the charcoal canister or somewhere else in the line. 100%. -17, -18, -19, -20, -23, -24 almost. We're at 100% purge solenoid with -24. That's not supposed to be more -15, so that is not our restriction. Yeah, -24.5. Go ahead and shut it off. Key on, and turn the key on, engine off. So that tells us that is not a restriction, because if it was a restriction, it would have never went that negative in vacuum. So we're going to go ahead and remove another line and go from there. All right, so this line here ain't going to do nothing because this one goes to the tank. We're just going to put it back on. It's a canister, bad canister, because if we put this one, we check it now, it's not going to change any vacuum because the fuel tank pressure sensor is in the tank. So, but we did unhook the vent solenoid, right? And it still went negative. So our blockage is in the evap canister. So it needs a new evap canister. That's what's wrong. That's why this one's plugged up. We'll get the new one, put it in, and do a follow-up video with the new readings and make sure everything's good. And that'll suffice this P0446. Now we're going to do one more check. So we got just the vent one off, running 100% evap, -17, -18, just a little bit out of tolerance. But if he go ahead and puts his finger and plugs it a little bit, go ahead, don't let it kill the engine, it's going to go way negative. He goes way negative, he's plugging it, took his finger off, went way negative. He's going to let it equalize now. Not yet. We've got to let it equalize. So now go ahead and we're a little bit, now he's going to go ahead and plug on the vent one. Just look at the vent one, make this focus. Come on. -22, way going negative. -23 almost. If you look, we're venting. So we're venting. So I think our issue is actually maybe not our charcoal canister, or maybe a little bit, but we're -22. Go ahead and pull it back off. Easier said than done. Did you get it? Still not off yet. He's got to release the clips. But we're still -22, -23. You got it off. And now look, it goes way better. Gets way better. But it's still above the -15. So our plug is in the vent solenoid or the line. There could be a slight plug in the actual charcoal canister as well. But it looks like our big plug is probably in that line / the vent solenoid. So, and the charcoal canister is a slight one. So what I recommend on this vehicle is to get a new charcoal canister and the vent solenoid with the new line. And then we'll redo our checks. So the other code we had with this vehicle was a P219 Alpha field trim cylinder balance bank 1. Basically it's from bank 1 to bank 2. It knows it needs to be in a certain parameter. I looked at some of the freeze frame. It did it at like 2,900, 3,000 RPMs. But before we troubleshoot this one, I want to get the other code fixed because conditions for running this diagnostic trouble code, P0446, are not set. So I want to get all the evap stuff done first and then go through this. I don't know if there's a anomaly with the evap system causing this issue, but we definitely need to fix the P0446 first before we go and address this issue. So we got a new charcoal canister, a new vent solenoid which comes with the line, replace all that, do our same checks, and that'll fix this vehicle.